The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While we discuss topics related to mental health, well-being, and emotional support, we are not providing therapy or medical services. Always seek the advice of your physician, psychologist, psychiatrist, or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. If you are in crisis, feeling unsafe, or need immediate support, please contact a mental health professional or emergency services in your area. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organizations or institutions.
Get inspired, get motivated with M.A.Y.A and the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast.
Something that I take pride in is trying to be forward thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you.
Find M.A.Y.A on Twitter and Instagram at M.A.Y.A_Akai. On Facebook at M.A.Y.A Akai Presents.
We're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing.
Or get everything M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A_Akai.com.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to another episode of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. I like to say that my podcast likes to look at mental health, wellness topics from a fresh, forward-thinking perspective. The key thing is to focus on those things that creates self-doubt and it helps us to sabotage ourselves. And what we want to do here is identify our ambitions and harness that motivation that yields the satisfaction and success you seek in your everyday life. So if you're a first-time listener or viewer, welcome. Glad to have you here. I just like to say buckle up for safety because occasionally it could be an unexpected bumpy ride. I might just say something that makes you go, or hadn't thought of that before. And of course, if you are a returning listener or viewer, always happy to have you here and absolutely appreciate your support. As I say, this next 30 to 60 minutes is all about you. This is your space. So find that quiet place where you can sit, grab, a pencil, pen, some paper so you can jot down some things I might say that are worthy of reflection. And of course, but beverage of your choice, coffee, tea, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So whatever it is, it's going to help you to relax and settle in and get ready for this episode. I'm all about it. So with that being said, this is episode 87, The Purpose of Self-Preservation. And this really is an episode that goes hand in hand with episode 86, which was talking about the economy of self. Understanding the limited emotional and mental resources that you have and being aware of how you allocate them and how in return, what does it exactly do for you? Well, I feel like this is an extension of that conversation that we're going to have. That's equally as important. But before we jump into that, of course, if you missed episode 86, don't fret. Make sure you subscribe and share to my YouTube channel. M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. That's one way to stay on top of things. You can always get a notification of future episodes coming up. But of course, you can always subscribe to my podcast platforms. There's iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, Spotify, all those places. All you have to do is search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and voila, my podcasts are out there, all 87 episodes of them. And of course, you can always social me to stay abreast of things that are happening. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Just make sure you follow at M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. And you can just go to my website if you want to make your life just a little bit easier. Subscribe to my website because everything M.A.Y.A is right there, so you can't miss it. It's M.A.Y.A-speaks.com. But something else that I really am passionate about when it comes to my website is there are 2 blogs that I have there. There is the inspirational blog. If you want inspirational thought a week to reflect on, it's posted on Wednesdays. Because I want you to dig deep into it and to really stretch it out opposed to trying to chew and process a lot of new thoughts every day. I give you one a week. And then, of course, there is the Me on Pause blog, which is my menopause blog. Everything menopause worth knowing, I like to share with my listeners because it is a bigger change of life transitional piece that most women don't understand. And though, ladies, the blog is for you, I would absolutely encourage if your mother, your wife, your partner, whoever potentially is going through this change, it can make you equally as informed how you can be a support and help her through that transition. Now, I have mentioned how you can find episodes of me on my podcast platforms. I've talked about my website and something else to make things just equally as easy for you. Well, I also have an app you can download and literally take M.A.Y.A on the go in the palm of your hand. You absolutely cannot beat that. So you can get it's called the M.A.Y.A experience. You can find it in the Amazon store, as well as you can also find it in the Apple store and download it, and voila, pretty much everything you need is right there, all M.A.Y.A in the palm of your hands. You absolutely cannot beat that. So I would encourage you, go ahead and download the M.A.Y.A app. It's the M.A.Y.A experience. You can take M.A.Y.A on the go. Right here, I've got 2 QR codes that you can scan. That'll take you, if you're an iPhone person, you can scan and go to the Apple store, or if you're an Amazon Android person, you can right there and scan that. And it's a free app. Download it, and right there, I'm on the go. So you can get the blogs, the podcasts, you can listen or watch. Every M.A.Y.A is right there within the app. So I would encourage you to download the M.A.Y.A experience just to take M.A.Y.A on the go and make it easier. All right. So with that being said, episode 87. Well, remember, every episode is about giving you something as a takeaway, a nugget. As you know, we talk about the M.A.Y.A toolbox. It's those little nuggets I give you that I want to make sure you read. So this week in the M.A.Y.A toolbox, it's about self-preservation. And it's something that people probably don't give enough thought to often enough, but it's something you definitely need to have in your toolbox, because without it, you're going to find yourself often running on fumes. As I said, this episode literally is a companion episode to episode 86, which was about the economy of self. This all ties together and gives you so many tools as you're working on you to be the best version of yourself, to figure out how to be better and present in relationships. But remember, the most important relationship you have is that relationship you have with yourself. And that is what we focus on the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast. Okay, so we're putting self-preservation into our toolbox. So what exactly does that look like? Well, of course, you know, everything that goes in your M.A.Y.A toolbox is about building more emotional intelligence. So just a recap of what is emotional intelligence, aka EI, it is that ability to manage both your own emotions and understand the emotions of people around you. So you understand how you feel and you can connect and understand someone else. It does not always mean you agree. This is where empathy plays in, but you understand where they're coming from and where they may be responding to things the way they are. That's what emotional intelligence is. So we're putting into our toolbox time, self-preservation. So before we start the episode, let's define exactly what it is we're doing here. So self-preservation, for what it's worth, I would tell you that it is the fundamental and often instinctual behavior that we're supposed to have that promotes ourselves and protects ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally. I'll be honest, we could probably expand this out more and even say financially, spiritually, socially. Literally, self-preservation can go across almost every domain in your life. And that's the part that's important to realize, is that it isn't just locked into one space. So self-preservation is about protecting you at all levels. That is the way that I would say that. So when we talk about self-preservation, yes, it's fundamental. It should be instinctual. But what I have come to find is I don't know that it's like that for everyone, because choosing to activate self-preservation, it is a crucial survival mechanism. And what it involves is many things that people struggle with. 1, setting boundaries. 2, practicing self-care. And 3, moving yourself from toxic situations to prevent burnout and to ensure a long-term well-being. Long-term well-being does not manifest itself and happen without some work. So within this episode, the purpose of self-preservation, we're going to dive deep into that. So what specifically are we going to talk about in this episode? 1, understanding what self-preservation is, which we roughly already have done. 2, how to identify and manage the functions of self-preservation, which I refer to as pillars. And 3, how to make choices that support you and your self-preservation needs. So one of the things I'm going to have to get you to learn really quickly about self-preservation is that when you start to do work on yourself, it's going to require that you put yourself first. This is the least sexiest conversation that people ever have is about wellness. And they only care to really truly address it when their world is falling apart. If I could convince people to do some ground or legwork to build up your mental wellness, so when you are faced with adversity, how you will handle it will look much different with being prepared versus not being prepared. But yet, getting people to focus or think that way is often really hard when it comes to mental wellness because it's just not a sexy conversation to be had. But it's not going to keep me from being on my mission on giving people tools and helping them as much as I can. All right, so let's jump into the conversation. We kind of touched on it when I gave a description about the episode, but what is self-preservation? Okay, I'm going to expand out on what we just talked about. It's a mandatory function, which means you have to get accustomed to this idea that this is something that you need to do, that is incorporated into what I say is self-care. Self-preservation is incorporated into self-care for me. It's about protecting your peace of mind, your presence, and your energy, because these things are paramount. And those are the things that I refer to as the 4 pillars. Self-preservation is not merely an option component of your wellness. It is a mandatory foundational function of self-care that you have to learn to embrace. It serves as that essential proactive defense mechanism that allows you to maintain equilibrium and to thrive in an often demanding world. So when you know how to self-preserve, you can navigate difficult situations because you understand what it takes for you to try to maintain this equilibrium within your life that you have put work into. So remember I said that there are 4 pillars that go into this. So self-preservation, and sometimes language is everything to people. So let me give you another way to maybe look at self-preservation. Self-preservation as a form of protection, because ultimately it's what it is. It is protecting critical elements. And those elements, or the pillars, I refer to as, again, I said peace of mind, presence, and energy. So when I say peace, what I mean by that, I'm going to define peace as that sanctuary of tranquility that you need to try to achieve. Peace within itself refers to that deep, tranquil, and sense of freedom, chronic mental distress, agitation, internal conflict. It is steady, quiet, and allows you to be centered. When I talk about peace of mind, I define that as that internal assurance, confidence, and freedom from debilitating anxiety, unwanted worry, or self-inflicted guilt about things. It's gaining clarity that allows for you to make sound decision makings that are advantageous for you. It does not mean that you do not take into consideration the care and importance of others, but you learn where to place yourself in the grander scheme of things, the importance of you, and maintaining a peace of mind. Note, I said peace and peace of mind are 2 different things. The 3rd pillar is present. You hear so much about it's important for you to be present in life. And a lot of people blow this stuff off. It's kind of the thing that really annoys me is that people do not want to do any work until their world is falling apart, which is fine. If you prefer to be under distress and be more depressed in a bad place than you need to be, then okay, that's a choice that people make. But I guess it's when you arrive at that destination and you figure out you need to pursue it, that's what's important. And often after people maybe do that first time of pursuing some form of help, they understand the importance of preserving their mental health. So presence is the anchor in your life. I would define it as the capacity to be fully engaged, attentive, and more importantly, conscious in the current moment that you are in. It's trying to be unburdened by the weight of past regrets or the speculation of the future anxieties. It is the gateway to authentic living. So in the moment, I have processed and moved past the past. I do realize there's a future that I can plan for, but it doesn't become the thing that drives me so that I keep forgetting to be present and to appreciate that which is in front of me, which is what being present is all about. And the 4th and final pillar of self-preservation is energy. And boy, a lot of these words are so often used. They're very cliche about energy, but your energy is that vital life force. You know when you get a bad vibe from somebody. So vibe, energy, term it how you like, but it's really all the same thing. But what you need to understand when I speak to energy in this context of self-preservation is that energy encompasses your vital life force. It is your physical stamina, it is your emotional reserves, and it's your mental capacity. It is the finite fuel that you require for all functions in your life, responsibility, and especially to elevate creativity. So again, I'm gonna do a little shameless promotion. If you missed last week, episode 86, Understanding the Economy of Self, it laid the foundation, and we are now building up the house that is you to get to that better version of yourself. So I now define what the 4 pillars are: peace, peace of mind, presence, and energy. But let's dive a little bit more into them individually, the 4 pillars of self-preservation. So when I talk about peace, it was the first one that I put on the table. So let's talk a bit more about, okay, so what exactly does that mean, or does it look like? We're going to dig a little deeper again, because I want to reiterate this. Peace, the sanctuary of your tranquility. It's about understanding that you need peace in your life to be away from chronic mental stress, agitation, and internal conflict. Peace means I am looking for a steady space that is quiet, that I can navigate in and not feel overwhelmed by the inside or outside influences in my life, because I have created this space for me. And that is what peace is. It's a sanctuary for your tranquility. Remember, I said that there is a difference than in the peace of mind. So let's drill a little deeper on this pillar about the peace of mind, because ultimately it is saying that it's about your overall well-being. That's when I say you need to have a peace of mind. It's about your mental well-being. It is the foundation of your confidence. A peace of mind is that internal assurance, confidence, and freedom from anxiety that can overwhelm you. It's avoiding unwanted worry or self-inflicted guilt. It is so important to truly understand these things, since I am reiterating them again. Because when you have a peace of mind, what you will find is that there is a clarity that you can have in making decisions, because you won't feel muddied or heavy, because you have found mental well-being that allows you to have that clarity that you need to often make what can be difficult decisions. Then we talk about presence. Again, it is that anchor that you need to know about how you engage and do these things. So it's about being engaged and attentive and conscious. And the key thing, past the past, the future is the future, but you stand in the present. And it's important, and remember this, not to put down roots where you go. Because if you root yourself in the present today, well, tomorrow is the future. Can those roots move with you? So it's about being very conscious. And of course, that energy piece, it's that vital life force. It encompasses that total piece of physical stamina, emotional reserves, and that capacity that you really need to keep front and center. It's that important. All right. I put them on the table and did a full circle, and even reiterated them again to make you understand fully what these 4 pillars of self-preservation mean. Normally, I would keep pushing, but because this episode will probably only go 30, 45 minutes, I'm actually going to take this time right now to take a quick break and let you reflect, because when we get on the other side, this is when we're going to really dive deeper into the work. So we're going to take this break so you can reflect, and we come back, we're going to dive deeper into exactly how to manage these pillars of self-preservation. Because a lot of times things are easier said than done. You understand what they are, but do you understand now how to manage them? Because that's truly where the challenges often lie, is being able to manage them. Quick commercial break, everyone. We'll be right back, and we'll continue with this episode of understanding the importance of self-preservation right here on M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition.
Stepping out of bed. It's easy to take for granted. You work, eat, play, sleep, and get out of bed the next morning. Seems simple. But if you're one of 25 million individuals in the United States living with major depression, sleep isn't always so easy. Neither is navigating your daily life free of guilt or hopelessness, or having the ability to enjoy time out with friends, make simple decisions, enjoy hobbies, or go to work. Major depression is the leading cause of disability across the United States, and without treatment, the frequency and severity of symptoms tend to increase over time. However, there is hope. Major depression is treatable, and there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Today, there are a variety of treatment options to choose from. The key is to get an evaluation and find a treatment plan that is right for you. Free education, information, and support programs are available. You are not alone. We can help.
You may not realize it, but these words, often used to describe someone with a mental health condition, can be very harmful. In a country where 1 in 5 people are affected by a mental health condition, it's time for all of us to step up and change the conversation. Just because someone's struggle isn't obvious on the outside doesn't mean they aren't hurting on the inside. We need to see the person, not the condition. Join with me, pledge to be stigma-free.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/team up.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. That's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 87 of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, the purpose of self-preservation. I want to say in that commercial break, that last commercial, I don't care really how you feel about Stephen A. Smith. He said something that I absolutely agree with, is that there are some things in life that are not debatable. And what is not debatable is your overall emotional and mental well-being. People have to stop living in silence and in pain because they think there's no space for them to really communicate. It takes courage to walk out of the dark and ask for help, but I guarantee you when you do, you'll be happy that you did. And when you understand the purpose of self-preservation, you're more likely to understand that getting help doesn't have to be as complicated as it seems. In fact, it might be one of the easier things that you've actually ever done. All right, with that being said, let's jump into now what I would say, this is the real meat and potatoes of the episode. This is where we talk about doing the work. Because now that we understand what self-preservation is, and that there are 4 dynamics, which I refer to as pillars that go into it: peace, peace of mind, energy, and presence, all have equal value and importance of how you navigate your road traveling self-preservation. But it's not easy because we don't live in a silo. We have people in our lives. And often it's difficult to navigate these things because people will not often get what you're doing. One of the things that I often first say to people when they enter into therapy is that understand, if you are coming from a toxic environment, whether it be work, whether it be family, whether it be a relationship with your spouse, your children, whatever it is, if you are the only person that has invested time to put in the work, You better be ready for the fact when you start to shift and make changes towards the positive, and you learn to choose yourself, and you learn to begin to protect your peace of mind, energy, and presence. Many people in your life are not going to understand because they have chosen to keep on the path that they are walking, which in many cases is unhealthy and toxic. It can become a lonely road when you decide to do the work, but it is worth it because of what you gain for yourself. A life that can be free of unhappiness, guilt, and sadness, and anxiety and depression. You got to weigh out what's important when it comes to you. And often people will make sacrifices for others because it's what they've learned to do. And part of self preservation might be unlearning some very unhealthy behaviors that you have learned from family. So, with that being said, how can you manage these 4 pillars we discussed? Well, let's start right out with protecting your peace, because self-preservation is about self-protection, and it's about protecting your peace within this first pillar. So what does that mean when I say, protect your peace? Well, protecting your peace is about boundary setting. It becomes your shield. Safeguarding your peace from fundamentally things that could create issues. You have to learn to set and enforce boundaries that become non-negotiable, that can eliminate toxic influences for you. And this is where a lot of people can really, truly struggle with this, because it often means that you may have to remove things from your life and people, places, and things, and people can struggle with that. So, talk about protecting your peace. This is about boundary setting. So, let's dive a little deeper. So, there are 3 things I want you to think about when we talk about this boundary setting when you are protecting your peace. 1, it's about filtering the information that you allow into your life, detoxing things. But more so, it's really about boundaries of information. And a lot of people often don't understand that piece. So it's about safeguarding the things that are toxic and saying, there is no space in my life for this. So boundary setting. It's also about, once you create that boundary, it's now you're aware that you want to have a very intentional space. And that part is equally important. And finally, it's about being mindful and disengaging from things that aren't good. So when we talk about setting up intentional boundaries, this ultimately means you are proactively choosing to literally remove things, both physically and in some cases, no, not some cases, in most cases now, digitally, that can foster things that do not create balance. A lot of times people want to spend a lot of time on social media. And it's to this point, our phones are like 6th appendage. So a lot of times people spend time just scrolling and looking and totally internalizing so much information. And then we know there's algorithms. So once you click on one thing, all of a sudden you probably notice your feed is flooded with it. So I have a feed that has been flooded with cat videos because that's what I like. But with that being said, if you happen to be clicking on, let's say, a lot of things that are news about, let's say, what's happening in the Ukraine or what's happening in Gaza or any of the political things that are happening, that can be very overwhelming. So even, believe it or not, we do have to talk about putting boundaries within digital spaces because we can be inundated so much information. So when we talk about boundary setting, it has to be non-negotiable about those toxic influences. And have to be okay with saying, hey, these people, places, and things are habitually not good for me. They're negative, and I find that they're draining. And so I have to create a boundary to remove those things. Then you level it up to, now I've got boundaries. So I have those intentional spaces. Creating those intentional spaces means you are proactively choosing to create environments, like I said, that might be physical or digital, that foster calm, that foster safety for you. This means you're going to simplify, declutter to ensure your personal spaces are more restorative than removing what you need. So we're creating boundaries with spaces, but that then means we now created an intentional space where we feel happy and we feel safe. And lastly, we want to consider being mindful and disengaging from those practices that take away from the quiet that we need in our lives, that keep allowing too much internal pressure. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. So practice mindfulness, which, by the way, I say this to people all the time. Mindfulness is not an occasional activity. You have to utilize mindfulness in your life every single day for it to actually work and to yield outcomes for you that you're looking for. Because it's something that you learn to train your mind to say, I'm mindfully doing this as this creates safety for me. It creates peace for me. So it's a conscious choice that you engage in on a regular basis. Because what we want to do is remove those external noises, which actually can create internal noises, which then becomes more pressure for you internally and externally. So when you become more mindful and you disengage from unhealthy things, it allows you to observe the mental and emotional distress without immediately being attached to it, because you've learned that you have to disengage from things. It's creating the necessary buffer between you and the agitation of the outside world. And you get to define what the agitation of the outside world is. That is the work that goes into this. So this is managing that pillar of protecting your peace. Now, let's talk a bit more about specifically, okay, we've protected our peace. So then let's dive into protecting our peace of mind. Because remember, I said I deliberately separated these things out because they really have different functions. Having peace in your life versus a peace of mind are two separate functions that I want people to learn to understand. So when we talk about managing peace of mind or protecting your peace of mind, there are three things that I want you to think about in this. It gets back to this again. It talks about filtering out information and detoxing yourself from things that aren't healthy, managing that internal dialogue, that self-talk, that internal critic you may have, but also it's about prioritizing the importance of resting and reflecting, because you have to be able to give yourself that space, time, and energy to reboot, because your emotions and your mental space needs to be rebooted, just like a computer. Because when we don't reboot, that's when we tend to get really overwhelmed. So let's dig into these a little deeper. So when we talk about information filtering and detoxing, literally this is about protecting your mental well-being, which requires that you consciously filter overwhelming volumes of information that you consume, especially if it provokes things that create fear, cynicism, or even outrage. So regular information can be very fast and constant. We live in a world where we are inundated with information constantly because most people are now tied to social media. So in that, whether it's world news, whether it's national news, it doesn't matter what it is, you follow a cause, you are bringing all this information in. And it could be of interest. But I have to say, be mindful of how much interest you put into things that cause you distress. That's about learning when to shut something down, because the thing you keep leaving open is causing distress. And I will ask somebody, if that causes you distress, why do you keep going back and doing it? Or why do you keep doing more research on something that really you have not learned to truly be able to process and put into a space that does not create distress from you? Maybe you need to get back until you've acquired that skill set. And that's something that people often don't think about. Because often when you fill yourself with a lot of information, then what happens? Oh, that internal dialogue, the self-talk, or even maybe internal critics. I'm going to tell you something. More people probably did not have imposter syndrome until they found out what imposter syndrome was. And then all of a sudden they could identify it was them. But I would say, is that truly factual? Because most people who sit in front of me and say, I feel like I have imposter syndrome, we do something I call the DBT method, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, because our mind likes to focus in three domains: emotion, so you have your emotional mind; logic, thinking factually, but we always want to streamline it down to what we call the wise mind. So I say, you feel like you are an imposter. Provide me with facts that support that. And then we challenge it. And most people, when they filter this down into their wise mind, will say, oh, I'm not an imposter. I've actually done a lot of things to achieve the things I have. It's interesting that somehow I just internalize that feeling. And then we start to process, well, why did you internalize that feeling? So, as I said, you consume all this information that then can turn into something that you internalize, that turns into a negative internal critic. Self-talk can become offline. So the thing about managing that is this pillar demands that you be proactive in self-compassion, challenging negative core beliefs, and actively prioritizing those activities in your life nurture your intellectual and emotional health. So as much as you may be consuming something that's negative, you must balance it out with things that are positive and supportive. That's a key thing. And then the last dimension of that would be prioritizing and reflecting. Rest and reflection are so important when you talk about your peace of mind. Ultimately, restorative, which means good sleep. I often talk about sleep hygiene with people, like put your phone down. You've been on your phone a whole day. We know about blue light and all this and how it can be very active, your production of melatonin, you can struggle with sleep, among other things. But I always encourage people to create a habit, hence called sleep hygiene, so that you can try to get in, whether it's 4, 6, 8 hours, whatever your sleep is, that it's restful, reflective, because you want to wake up refreshed. So when we talk about prioritizing for your peace of mind, rest and reflection, restorative sleep, because it is the thing that helps to reinvest in your mental health. It's that reboot. Furthermore, we want constructive reflection, analyzing experiences without punitive judgment of ourselves. We so judgmental, our own worst critic. I want you to begin to understand how to process stress and solidify the fact that I'm a person who can, and therefore I am flexible. So I am going to manage my anxiety about the past and the future a little different based on what I'm consuming. Can I do this? Because I couldn't do it before. So here goes that past and that future thinking in the present. But we talked about that presence piece, which that moves us really nicely into that third pillar, which is how to protect your presence. Can't tell you how important this is and why within itself it had to be one of those pillars I thought to discuss when you are trying to protect everything that is about you. There are 3 areas that I want you to think about when you think about protecting your presence. 1, you must have strategic allocation of your energy. This goes back to episode 86, the accountability of self. I'm going to keep pushing it because it was the foundational episode. 2, identifying and disengaging from drains. That's going to be an important one we're going to discuss. And 3, pursuing intentional rejuvenation. Notice all of these things are very synonymous. They're working together as we move through these pillars and how to manage them. So when we talk about selective investment, so limiting those distractions, that we can sink so much time and energy into things that I find is really interesting. So when we talk about limiting distractions, this is about defending your presence. That means being in that moment aggressively and limiting all forms of distraction, especially those things that can pull you away. So we do know that the digital world, social media has everyone engulfed and engrossed in it. And it's not necessarily healthy. But the thing I need people to understand is that if you keep making yourself available for constant distraction, it's going to take you away from being present with yourself. Because if you get a notification and you're instantly on your phone looking at it, what's the notification? I like the people who come into therapy and they put their phone on do not disturb because they're like, this next 60 minutes is all about me. I tell people, limit distractions. So whether it's the end of your day or how you start your morning, don't start with maybe checking what happened on social media. Or I used to get up and always watch the news, and I've taken that out of how I start my morning because there's nothing on the news right now that's that great. And I found it to be distracting, but more importantly, did not set the tone I wanted. So you need to limit the distractions that you allow into your, not just everyday life, people, but generally every hour of your life, because we are inundated with negative things all the time. And we need to be able to limit those distractions. The next piece is cultivating deep awareness. Now, mind you, I could be asking you to do something if you don't even have surface level awareness. This is a journey you're going to go on, and it's okay because it's not like it should be intuitive to you if you've never really tapped into yourself and finally said, the most important relationship I have in my life is with me. And when I am good with me, it flows through everything else. Every other relationship in my life benefits from it. So cultivating deep awareness is important. And this involves intentionally I'm going to say it again. This involves intentionally slowing down during daily activities and being present, literally. So if you decide you're about to sit down and have lunch, here's what I would ask you to do. Sit down and have lunch, chew your food properly. Don't be on your phone, maybe don't even watch TV, unless it's something positive that you feel it lifts you up. But if you're sitting down and having dinner or a meal, have it. The most stressing things I feel like I see when I'm in public is when I'm out to dinner or someplace and I see people all at dinner and everybody's like this. And I'm thinking, well, why did you bother to go to dinner if everybody just wants to sit on their phone? Be present with the people you're spending time with. You almost can't walk down a street and notice that everyone's walking, doing this, and almost walk into people because they're so distracted. If you're on a mission to go somewhere, focus on where you're going and what you're supposed to be doing when you get there versus being distracted by your phone. Because when you decide to have that intentional daily kind of focus on what you're doing, whether it's eating, walking, I don't care, interactions, it cultivates a deeper sensory awareness. And you become more aware of your surroundings and people, and it makes you grounded. And especially people who have anxiety, this is something to work on frequently of how to ground yourself so you often don't feel so overwhelmed, maybe when you're in public spaces. Because there is a lot of sensory. Often we know that people with ADHD and on the spectrum with autism, sensory pieces are big for them. But people who don't, we process our daily information does a lot. And it can be overwhelming if we're not careful of how much we're consuming and how we're consuming it. And lastly, limit distractions. Remember, peace clearly has been all about distractions. Limit those distractions in your life that take you away from things that are important. So we talked about cultivating, awareness. We talked about limiting your distractions. And lastly, we want to talk about the authentic experience. See, this is when you pour into you. This is probably one of the most important things. When you are fully present with you, you experience life authentically as it unfolds. You are more receptive to happiness and to joy. You are more effective in problem solving, and you're more connected to relationships because you're present. Protecting this particular pillar ensures that you don't miss your own life. Let me say that again. Learning how to be present with you to make sure you don't miss your own life. And a lot of people focus so much on everything outside of them. When they finally make this awareness that they really haven't paid attention to themselves in their own life, they're kind of sad about how much time has passed and they didn't invest in themselves. So creating that authentic experience means being present with yourself every day. So some people commit to meditation. Some people will go do yoga. Some people make it their workout time. Some people make it a massage, whatever it is. Find ways to protect your peace by limiting distractions, cultivating a deep awareness, but making sure those experiences are legitimately authentic, that you're being present for you. And lastly, the last pillar of preservation is about protecting your energy. Again, so cliche, but so important to understand what that means. So there are 3 domains in this one as well. We'll talk about protecting energy. Be selective or where you allocate your time and your energy with people. I'll say it again, episode 86, The Economy of Self is all about this. It's the foundational episode. 2, identify and disengage from drains. I kind of mentioned it a little before, but now we're going to dive into it. And then pursuing intentional rejuvenation. If you noticed, giving yourself that space and time to rest and reset and to reflect is extremely important. So let's break those down a bit more. So when we talk about, in this case, selective investment, this is kind of the thing I'm talking about. Protecting your energy is critical so that you won't allow things into your space that's absorbing your time, your effort, and your intention, but yet it's giving you nothing back. You don't have to say yes to everything. It's okay to say no when it's appropriate. And that's often something people struggle with. One of the best sayings that I came across once, someone had posted a pastor sermon, and he said, and I agree 100%, just because I'm free does not mean I'm available. And a lot of people, when they are people pleasers, struggle with saying no to people. Just because someone knows that like Saturday is your off day and they call you like, hey, I'm moving, can you come help me? If you don't want to help them move because this is your reset reflection day, feel free to say no, because you don't have to give up that time that you have carved out for you to help them. Now, if someone's upset about that, let them be upset, because you're not obligated to do these things. Now, when people respect your time, what they will do is say, hey, I need your help with something. I'm moving on Saturday between, 9 and 3. I got a limited time. Can you come help me? If you can do it, you say yes. But if you can't do it, be honest and say, I can't do it, but I may be able to come help you maybe on Friday or something. Can you do some pre-moving, some packing? Is there something else? Are you having the truck early? Can I help you load the truck? But I'm not available on Saturday. So you make maybe a concession to help them if you want to, but if you can't, don't hold guilt, because what you have to learn about you is putting yourself first. Selectively, how you invest your time is important. People often think if they know you're free, that they can just sort of, I guess, reserve your time without thinking about how it might impact you. Learn to say no. That's a key thing. Next up, identifying and disengaging from drains. Oh, I can't tell you how important this one is right here. It is necessary for me to make sure you clearly understand this. You must identify in your life and disengage from people, places, and things that are chronic energy drains. They constantly are asking for things. They're constantly needing help for something, but they're never present in any other way for you. Not even just to say, hey, I thought of you, you're on my mind. I hope you're good. Just for a casual conversation and a phone call. Didn't want anything. To be careful for people who are always coming to you to be their problem solver, because I'm going to start to ask you, at what point do they learn to solve their own problems? Why are you consistently their problem solver? Or let's be better, just the answer because they don't feel like putting the work into getting themselves. You have to start to observe those people who are constantly asking and taking, but never really giving back, or making you even feel that what you have given is truly appreciated, because these are the people who consistently take without any reciprocity. They make you feel excessive obligation often. And if it doesn't align with your values or your habits, then step away, because you want to move away from people, places, and things that deplete your emotional, mental, financial, physical, spiritual, whatever reserves that you have. It's imperative that you learn to step away from those things. And last but not least within this conversation is understanding when you need to pursue intentional rejuvenation. This pillar is built on pursuing those sources of true deep rejuvenation. So it might be in, activities that I say refill your tank, not just temporary distractions. And I always tell people it's important to find those things that really you find peace with, that allows you to kind of step back and you feel like you are literally kind of giving back to yourself. So I know some people that make sure they have a massage every month. That's their simple thing that helps them to get their space, they peace. I know some people that do yoga on a regular basis because they like to step into that space, do peace. Some people do Reiki. Some people commit to going for a walk. Other people, it's working out. Whatever it is that helps you to refill your emotional, mental tank, you have to identify those things and create habits that you do them on a regular basis. Folks, that is about self-preservation, is ultimately about protecting the things that we have talked about here. We talked about protecting peace. We talked about protecting your peace of mind. We have talked about protecting your presence. And lastly, we talked about protecting your energy. Why all these things are so important and you cannot take them for granted. That is the purpose of self-preservation. And don't take it for granted, because the longer you wait to step up and to employ these things, the more distant getting to your goals or even getting to happiness will seem to you. In essence, when it's all said and done, I align self-preservation with self-care. And I do that because true self-care is not shallow. It's not indulgent, and nor is it luxury that's reserved for privilege. It's this idea that it is radical and necessary that you be consistent and deliberate in prioritizing the preservation of these 4 pillars we talked about: peace, peace of mind, presence, and your energy. Recognizing these pillars of self-preservation should be non-negotiable, as they are precious assets to form the internal wealth. See, the wealth people don't think about that you can't put a monetary value on. And when you run out of it, you tend to know it. But these things are key for balance, to have a healthy and sustainable, but more importantly, truly functional, not dysfunctional life. Self-preservation is ultimately the prerequisite for service, creativity, but more importantly, happiness. And that's what this episode literally has been all about. So everyone, of course, thank you for listening to this episode. As I said, the whole purpose of my podcast is to help you to identify your ambitions and harness that motivation to help you to acquire the success and satisfaction you seek in your everyday life. We're going small, not big in 2026, because little things beget big things. So remember, don't panic if you missed any episodes leading up to this one, or even you missed this episode. Of course, you should know we're doing things. You can find all my episodes on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, Spotify. Pretty much, if it's a podcast platform, you can find me there. All you have to do is search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. Of course, you can listen to episodes of the show on my website, M.A.Y.A-speaks.com. I will tell you, make sure you subscribe, because there's two things on that website that I'm very passionate about. My inspirational blog that comes out on Wednesday. One thought a week that I want you to chew up, process, swallow. Maybe you'll throw it up, come back and say, that didn't work too well for me. But why? One thought a week I want you to process. And of course, I do have my Me on Pause. It's my menopause blog. It brings salient topics about menopause and being perimenopausal that women need to understand. And of course, I have to say it, because if I didn't, some people would be disappointed. I am the poster child for menopause. So it's deeply personal for me, but it's also life-changing, some of the information I share, because it could be the difference. A lot of people suffer going through menopause and menopause, and they have no clue that there are 60 symptoms related to it, and you may not be aware. So ladies, it's worth following and figuring out. But fellas, guess what? If there's a woman in your life, you might learn a lot from that blog as well. So you should subscribe, and you should check it out too. So of course, make sure you subscribe to my social media pages as well as YouTube. It's M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. You can also get social to me the same way at M.A.Y.A Speak to You via Facebook, IG, and X. And of course, for all things M.A.Y.A, just go to M.A.Y.A-speaks.com. And of course, as I said before, I made it real easy for everyone, and I actually created the M.A.Y.A Experience app. So literally, you can take M.A.Y.A on the go. Everything's there, and then you don't ever have to wonder if you missed a thing. So the easiest way to get to that is you just go to the Apple Store. If you are an iPhone user, you can scan this QR code. Or if you happen to be an Android user, you can just go to the Amazon store right there, and boom, it's a free app. It costs you nothing to be able to have a simple mental health, mental wellness tool in the palm of your hand. Not a bad thing, and it's free. How often do you get things free in the world? So go ahead and download the M.A.Y.A Experience app, and everything I just talked about is all right there, ready to go, and it's simple. You can't pretty much beat that. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode. I always enjoy this. So as I say, until next time, remember, your present becomes your past, and your future is no more. Not my words. It's lyric from a Pearl Jam song. So make the most of every day. Be well. Stay safe. But I'm going to say this, if you don't hear it enough, more than anything else, just stay being authentic you, which is nothing short than being amazing. Next week is birthday weekend, so I don't know what episode we're doing, but it's going to be something fun, a little lighthearted. So make sure you tune in next Saturday for M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. Ciao, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Whether you're on the go or listening on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop, you can find the show in the iTunes, Google, and iHeartRadio platforms.
With all due respect, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and get ready to be inspired and motivated to harness your ambition.